The Evil Within series. A very clever and unique take on the survival horror genre. And to be honest, I would be very surprised. I'm actually very surprised that, you know, we didn't see something like this long before. Or if we did, they didn't get certain details right that this one actually did. So, what's the story? Well, the game's core component is a virtual reality, so to speak, a fully immersive one that we somehow end up in. First game, we knew nothing that these things existed. As it opened with Detective Sebastian Castellanos with his two partners, a junior detective named Nicole Kidman and another one whose name is escaping me right now. uh, this other guy is, the other one is a detective named Joseph Oda. Now, Sebastian is a man who has had some trials and tribulations in his life. He had married a fellow officer, and then they had a child, and then somehow uh, something happened to his daughter. There was a fire. His daughter apparently died, and there was sort of a apparent split between Sebastian and his wife. This happens, of course, before. Now, Sebastian and Joseph and Julie, that's Kidman, they all got called to, they get thrown into a bit of a difficult situation. They are apparently called to help at a situation in Crimson City that happened at the Beacon Mental Hospital. Mass murder has just happened. Well, what turns out is that things quickly go sideways. Because the apparent mass murderer is a gentleman known as Ruvik. And you've got some very odd looking individuals, including a monstrous man wielding a chainsaw, come to be known as the sadist. I mean, as we're going through it, Sebastian ends up captured, having to escape this nut job, running through a hall that turns into a blender trap of blades, having been wounded by the chainsaw. He's got to sneak by the sadist and get out, and then they all get in the where we also find a another person, a doctor Marcelo Jimenez, and his patient, Leslie Withers. This is also when we learn that the person stalking us basically is Ruvik. Well, we learn it as we make progress. But as we escape from the hospital, the city is apparently being destroyed by a massive earthquake. And there is shit happening that is just unreal. I mean, whole blocks are shifting. Buildings aren't collapsing right away, they're shifting along with it. And things start not making sense. People are being transformed into creatures that I think are called the haunted. On occasion, the blast, sometimes the triggering method, a blinding light from a lighthouse, a beacon, somewhat starts to trigger even the transformation in Sebastian and Joseph. Now, all throughout this, we are going through things, buildings, ruined buildings, running across ruined village, running across dangerous things. And this is a game where stealth comes in. In fact, you have a signifier at the top of the screen when you're playing that lets you know, hey, you're being seen. They are on to you. This just adds to the tension. I mean, these things will attack you if they see you or if they sense you, because some might not be able to see. And depending on the mode you play as, you either have to rely more on stealth because ammo is scarce, or you have to be a very good shot. Now, of course, there is a mechanic for upgrading. As we discover, but sometimes between chapters, we end up in, or at some points during the chapters, we end up in a safe haven of sorts, a hospital type setting of which, if you pay attention and say go and check things out, you will find stuff like missing persons posters in the first game, and articles that help reveal the story to you. How what you are in came about. And everything starts to somewhat fall into place when you put these pieces together. It explains why you can end up in this hospital just by looking in a mirror that has just cracked. It can somewhat explain how you can survive certain things. I mean, as you play this and make progress, you get reunited with your team, but also start discovering some things about your team, especially Kidman. In fact, more about her story is revealed in the DLC for the first game. But as we are working our way through, we learn more about Ruvik, learn a little bit about a vast tragedy that happened to him, and also his experiments, which have led to what is called STEM. STEM is a system that can link minds together. It requires a base, a central mind. Ruvik is that central mind, but he did not do this willingly. And in part, he's trying to get out of STEM, which is why he's been orchestrating things. In fact, every character that we have interacted with in this game so far has been is also in STEM. So what does that mean for us? We have to stop Ruvik. He is the main problem. He wants to use the character of Leslie Withers to escape. So this means that we have to get past all the threats and all the abominations that we are coming up against, which some leave us with green goo to help boost our own stats. And there's only one individual that is not, that we can't seem to get out of the STEM program. A missing woman by the name of Titania, a nurse. So what do? We do what any good protagonist does. We work our way through. After discovering we've been put into a real-life video game. One that you technically have one life on. But you can upgrade your abilities. Nice. And you have so many versatile weapons, of course. You have guns, you have a rifle, you've got a sniper rifle, shotgun, the agony crossbow. That's a fun one with all sorts of different crossbow bolts to use. We also have to avoid all the haunted individuals while also finding everything. And, whenever you go into the hospital area, which also has a mock-up of your office in it, you can open lockers in the morgue area and get other goodies, including 2 keys. There are keys in 2 of the lockers, so you can open all 24 of them. You get keys by finding statues and destroying them. What does it do for you in the end? Well, it gives you a hell of a lot of ammo and allow you to max out all your skills. And when you finish the game, you can actually restart with all these benefits, including a rocket launcher. That's fun. But you will also encounter other more dangerous creatures. There's I don't know what to call it, like a tentacle freak of nature that can turn invisible with its camouflage. You have your 3 big bad humanoid creatures. The sadist, that damn chainsaw. You have the keeper that has a safe for a head that will regenerate Hell, one time it cracks its own head off so it kills its main body just so it could go to a head that's in the room you're in. And you have Malia. I believe that's her name. A reincarnation of Ruvik's sister. Spider-like thing that hates fire. And you need some high power weaponry in order to get rid of her. Now, of course, during the battle, or once we make our way and we find Leslie, because we're now realizing we are in STEM, and apparently Leslie is the answer to getting out. But the thing is, well, Leslie is the key to getting out. Ruvik wants Leslie. Kidman realizes this. Of course, Kidman is also a double agent. She is working for Mobius, apparently. They're the ones who are in charge of the STEM program. And of course, because Kidman can't say this or tell anyone, well, that's the problem. We have a situation of a trust problem. Now, apparently Ruvik does merge with Leslie during this moment while they are sort of facing off, and Sebastian must now kill Ruvik. Of course, when he does, and he defeats it, he wakes up and just crushes the brain, removes the brain and crushes it from the STEM program. Not actually, quote, destroying it, apparently, because he was still in the subconscious, but maybe destroying, causing it to no longer be working. When he wakes up in the tub, because he thought he woke up already in that tub, Kidman convinces him to emotions for him to stay quiet. And he leaves the tub after going unconscious again, and he is now back in reality. The only two that quote seem to that only two bodies left appear to be appears to be the doctor and the officer that they were with in the beginning, because they died in STEM, so they died in real life. And as he's walking out of the place, police and SWAT are arriving, and Sebastian notices what looks like Leslie walking out of the main gates. Now, two of the, quote, DLC were side missions, or DLC are side missions, which help explain the stories. So we have Kidman entering into the machine, attacked by Connolly while in the forest and falls off a cliff. And Mobius is talking to her. So she has to work her way to find Leslie, take him to the church. And this is where she learns that Ruvik can leave STEM through Leslie by overriding himself into Leslie's body. In other words, he downloads himself into Leslie's brain, and so she's been given orders to extract Leslie and not kill him. But she says, it's too dangerous. So she is going and trying to stop the now Leslie having gotten out of the body, Rubik. And she learns a lot during this process where she now, of course, as we're learning all this, she is also finding out that there is more going on. And basically, we learn that Kidman also runs across, like after she is brought out and in the real world, they are taking everything, out of there. And Nicole ends up meeting Myra. This is when Kidman frees Sebastian and tells the Mobius members to leave Sebastian, Connolly, and Jimenez because they're not going anywhere, making it look like they're dead. Even the administrator says no one is going anywhere. Which shows Mobius is the big bad, but not everybody knows what's going on in Mobius. We also learned that Myra, Sebastian's wife, who had been trying to find their daughter, basically deduced what happened to her and has sort of made an ally in Kidman. Now, of course, this will lead us into the second game, which now is a willing continuation of the story. I say willing because this time Sebastian goes back into STEM. A whole 3 years after the events of the first game. Now, during these 3 years, Sebastian's left the Crimson State Police Department, mainly because he was haunted by his experience at Beacon Mental Hospital. His only child, Lily, supposedly perished in a fire. His wife, Myra, unwilling to accept his daughter's death, apparently abandoned him. Now, this coupled with his trauma, sort of, he doesn't take care of it well. He falls into alcoholism. And he's at a bar when he is approached by Kidman, who reveals to her that Lily is still alive In fact, she is the core of a new STEM program, one that was set to be an idyllic American town called Union. However, something has happened. Mobius has lost contact with Lily and with their agents in Union, and they've lost control over the simulation. Now, Sebastian agrees to help. However, no one has told everyone everything about what his help means. Now, of course, Sebastian discovers, he gets his own little room, his central base. One that should be relatively safe for him. And of course, we'll find his what looks like his office, who he's supposed to find and rescue. Try and find out what's going on, who's the problem. And when he finally truly gets into Union, he makes a very, very grim discovery. The town of Union is torn up, literally into separate pieces that are floating in the ether. The inhabitants have either been killed or mutated into monsters. We come across a mysterious photographer who has some supernatural powers and is killing the Mobius operatives. Now, he does manage to find some people, some of the agents, who are part of the unit who went in, and some help him in his search. And as Sebastian seeks out Lily, he learns that our mysterious photographer is named Stefano, is a serial killer. So how he got in there, well, obviously he charmed his way in. This is a disaster. He calls it his art. And he also has his own creations, a walking camera-like thing, which in one task you have to avoid or keep from stopping you from reactivating a stabilizer unit. But we also find out he's working for somebody else. Well, he kidnapped Lily under orders from another party, but decided to keep her for himself. To exploit that she's the core. And what we find out, after we beat Stefano, it appears that Lily basically, takes, Myra appears as this figure cloaked in white, covered in white goo-like stuff, which is something you've run across before, and gets Lily out of there. Seems Myra's not herself, and we are confronted by another figure, Father Theodore Wallace, who was the one who asked Stefano to get Lily. And Theodore tries to get, basically wants to get her to help him, or wants Sebastian to help him. Tries to manipulate Sebastian. Of course, this doesn't work. And Sebastian uses his own powers to basically banish Sebastian to, Theodore, banishes Sebastian out to another forest area where he meets another Mobius operative. One that came in. You see, there was a conspiratory group inside Mobius, consisting of this operative, Esmeralda, Kidman, Myra, and Theodore, to break Lily out of stem. The only thing was, Theodore became mentally unstable and decided to kidnap Lily for himself. No doubt he planned to do that all along. So now we have to work with the Mobius operatives that are still there, and shows that he's fully capable of even brainwashing the operatives that are still alive and in there. And so even the operatives that are in there, they know that Lily should go with Sebastian, no matter what. I mean, let's face it, he's her father. Nobody is aware that once Sebastian gets Lily and gets her to the, quote, extraction point, that he's going to be killed. But what the Mobius operatives weren't aware of is that Myra had a lot of plans set in motion. She knew that once she went into STEM, she wasn't coming out. Of course, the corrupting influence that's been used in STEM didn't leave her unscathed or her totally stable. And Theodore is going to great lengths to, quote, guilt trip and break Sebastian, which doesn't work. He even has touched base with Sebastian's encounters in The Evil Within and brought back the Sadist, the Keeper, and Maria. All part of a plan to, beat Sebastian in a fight. Of course, once we do that, Sebastian has to follow his wife to rescue Lily. But something in the whole system has corrupted her motherly protection, motherly instincts, and we have to fight her. Now, of course, all this time, we can always jump back to our room. There are safe zones. There are side missions, which can get you some goodies. There's also some more crazy creatures. This time, the beings aren't the haunted. They're the lost. And to make things worse, there's this entity that goes around and sort of acts like a dementor, stealing the souls and making them lost. The baddies have their own creations. Oh my God, there's one that's like a giant with a bunch of doll heads on it. You got Theodore's creatures. Some of them burst into flame or are walking flame things. And that thing that turns them into lost. You can't kill her. Second, she sees you. She catches you, she kills you. It's all. But of course, like, you just don't go in unarmed. You do are able to improve your abilities, just like in the last game with the green goo. But the green goo don't help with the weaponry. Not this time. And you can only unlock some skills by collecting vials of red goo. And you can find scrap and upgrade your weapons using that scrap. Sometimes using it to craft weapons and ammo. I mean, you got your typical that you had in your last game. You also got, the crossbow. And you pick up a flamethrower, too. That can make things fun. Of course, when you got the fiery creatures, you also want to make sure you use some of the ice type weapons. And once you are able to rescue Lily, this is when you find out that Myra's full plan. In fact, if things went sideways, which Nicole could have planned for ahead of time because of Sebastian being in the first STEM program, been pulled in for the beacon incident, she had convinced them that it would be okay to leave him alive because if worse comes for where they need to do something again to, rescue a STEM system, it's good to have at least one ace that isn't in the system that nobody knows about. That way nobody knows about them until they are called into play. A wild card. This time they're not going to allow this one to him to be, get free. Because they know if he comes out, he's going to take Lily. And they don't want him to take Lily. So even when Sebastian is heading out, or prepping to head out, we get sections of that final chapter where we're flipping between Sebastian and Kidman fighting their way. And Myra had set up for this. Kidman is supposed to get Lily and Sebastian out. Now, in this case, Myra stays in, becomes the new core, and hacks the one security implement that they have as a connection, a chip that connects them to the system, implanted in their brain, in their heads. Nicole had hers removed prior to this. And what this means is when Lily's out of the system, is getting out of the system, Myra takes over as the core and unleashes the kill switch, literally wiping out all of Mobius in one go, thus ending the threat of Mobius. The whole story idea, the concept of the fighting ground, is a very nicely done method in this. The goo is equivalent to gaining experience. Additions of red goo in the second game to unlock certain things. Nice little touch, as long as you have enough to unlock everything. You have using parts to build up your weapons makes sense, and there's even a heavy weapons part that will really allow you to access more skills. And it's beautiful that you only have to use it once per level. Because while certain things in each level are blocked off until you use that part, by unlocking it, you can now access things and make it even better. Except for the bolts. For some reason, each bolt needs one. Certain bolts need an exclusive one to make them better. Don't ask me why they set up that way. And adding side missions to help access other things is a brilliant idea too. Within the second one. These games leave. The first one could do good to stand alone. But the DLC adds things that need explaining and expanding on. And the second game expands on that and ties everything up nicely. In fact, it's probably good that we haven't seen a third Evil Within game because the series is nice and concise this way. Of course, this is also something that if you're more of a casual player, you want to go with the casual settings, but if you really enjoy the survival horror and live for true survival horror stuff, yeah, the harder settings are going to be more your style. Enemies, if you're not prepared for the attack, can kill you quickly. But the story is intriguing. And the ending, while it does set some groundwork for a possible continuation, it's good enough to now leave Sebastian out of it. And that is all I want to say about this series as a whole. I actually I enjoyed the second one, I must admit I enjoyed it a little bit more than the first one. But it is definitely a good game series. And that's all until next time. Take care all and have fun.